The circus surrounding Gervonta Tank Davis and Jake Paul has become one of the most heated debates in combat sports today. What began as whispers of a money grab has now turned into an all-out storm that has every fan, analyst, and fighter weighing in with fire. And at the heart of it all is Tank, one of the most dangerous lightweights in the world. Facing a man who built his boxing career on YouTube clout and spectacle, rather than Olympic medals and amateur pedigree, the drama kicked off when footage surfaced of Jake Paul sparring with Shakur Stevenson ahead of the Davis fight. The move immediately drew criticism, not only because it was seen as a publicity stunt, but because it positioned Stevenson in the middle of a sideshow. Tank didn't hold back in his response. He dismissed the idea that Jake's sparring would make any difference, promising that once the lights came on and the bell rang, Paul would feel his power and crumble under the pressure of a real fighter. The message was clear: warm-ups, hype videos, and sparring partners wouldn't save Jake Paul when Tank unleashed what he calls real boxing. But the irony of it all couldn't be ignored. Analysts were quick to point out that Shakur Stevenson himself criticized Tank's decision to fight Jake Paul while simultaneously using the moment to insert himself into the spotlight. It's the contradiction at the center of modern boxing fighters claim a matchup is a disgrace, but they can't resist the PR boost that comes with being associated with it. Shakur defended his choice by saying that while purists hate the Tank-Jake spectacle, he had no problem sparring Paul to support the sport. Critics, however, saw it as copycat behavior, especially since Gervonta recently sparred Canelo Alvarez in preparation for Terence Crawford. The pattern is obvious: fighters criticize the circus but still want their slice of the spotlight. The money conversation, though, is what drives the entire narrative. Tank Davis is not chasing legacy in this fight, he's chasing a payday. After making a reported $40 million fighting Ryan Garcia, Tank saw how lucrative crossover fights can be. Jake Paul, with his massive following, offers him another $40 to $50 million. And let's be honest, once you're making that kind of money in back-to-back fights, the motivation to fight someone like Shakur Stevenson, who brings far more danger but far less revenue, just isn't there. As one analyst bluntly put it, if you want Tank to fight Shakur, you better bring Canelo money, legacy, pride. And rankings mean little compared to the kind of generational wealth Tank is stacking fight after fight. Shakur Stevenson sees it differently. To him, Tank's refusal to face him is nothing short of disrespect to the sport. Stevenson has repeatedly called himself the best fighter in boxing, daring Tank to prove him wrong. Instead, Tank is walking into the ring with a YouTuber. In Stevenson's eyes, that's ducking a betrayal of what real boxing should stand for. He made it clear that true fighters take risks, and avoiding him for Jake Paul is an insult to everything boxing is supposed to be. Tank's response? He doesn't care, flat out. He told critics and fans alike that public opinion means nothing to him because fans are fickle. One bad night, and they turn on their favorites, hyping the next man up. For Tank, the only opinion that matters is his own. He doesn't fight for the crowd, he fights for himself and his family. If the fight makes him money and keeps him in control of his career, that's all that matters. Fans, he says, should just sit back and enjoy the show. Meanwhile, legends of combat sports have chimed in with their takes. Michael Jai White dismissed the idea of Jake Paul ever being a legitimate champion, arguing that he's too far behind in skill development to compete with top 10 fighters. Daniel Cormier blasted the fight altogether, calling it boring, unnecessary, and beneath Tank's level. He reminded fans that Tank is not broke, not desperate, and doesn't need Jake Paul. To Cormier, this matchup isn't about boxing, it's about spectacle, clout, and social media buzz. Still, for all the criticism, there's one undeniable truth: people will watch. As commentator Showbiz the Adult put it, fans may call it a joke, but curiosity sells. Millions will tune in, not because they respect it, but because they can't look away. Tank's tension with Shakur Stevenson on social media only fuels that fire, keeping the headlines hot and the drama alive. The most glaring issue, however, is the size difference. When the two faced off, Tank looked like a child standing next to Jake Paul. Paul towered over him, making the visual almost embarrassing. But boxing isn't a game of height and reach alone. Tank's speed, skill, and precision are weapons Jake Paul has never encountered before. Paul may outweigh him by nearly 40 pounds, but Tank's explosiveness and ability to punish mistakes make him the heavy favorite in the eyes of experts. The question isn't whether Tank is more skilled, it's whether Jake Paul can take the heat long enough to make it interesting. And that's where the controversy deepens. Some fans worry this will turn into another exhibition farce, with neither man actually going for the knockout. We've seen it before, Weather carrying Logan Paul to the final bell. It's Tyson holding back against Roy Jones. Viewers are tired of being sold knockouts, only to get glorified sparring sessions. The demand is clear. If Tank and Jake step in that ring, fans want blood. They want to see Jake get dropped, the way Ryan Garcia was. They want to see Tank land a body shot that folds Paul in half. Without that kind of intensity, the fight risks becoming another empty spectacle. Teofimo Lopez took a lighter approach, reminding everyone that this is entertainment, not legacy. He sees the fight as a fun sideshow, not something that affects real boxing supremacy. But even he admitted that the fight that truly needs to happen is Tank versus Shakur, the matchup that would define an era. Until then, the sport will be caught between what sells and what matters. Timothy Bradley added another layer to the debate, urging fans to understand Tank's background before judging him too harshly. He reminded people that Tank came from a broken home, raised in hardship, guided by boxing to escape the cycle of poverty and struggle. For Bradley, that explains Tank's mindset. His hunger for financial stability outweighs the pressure to please purists. This isn't just about belts or rankings. It's about survival, about seizing opportunities that can change lives forever. But the criticism doesn't go away. Analysts argue that fights like this damage the credibility of boxing. They turn the sport into a circus, where spectacle overshadows skill. Jake Paul has perfected the formula: fight older legends, undersized opponents, or crossover stars to maximize hype. Facing Tank Davis is the next step in that formula, one that guarantees headlines, clicks, and pay-per-view buys. The question is whether this formula is sustainable or whether it erodes the very foundation boxing is built on. At the end of the day, the Tank versus Jake Paul fight is a paradox. It's everything wrong with boxing, and yet it's everything fans can't stop talking about. It's a fight nobody asked for, but one everyone will watch. Whether it ends in a viral knockout or another disappointing exhibition, it proves one undeniable truth in the modern era. Boxing is no longer just about belts and rankings, it's about business, clout, and spectacle. But what about you? Do you think Tank Davis is disrespecting the sport by fighting Jake Paul instead of Shakur Stevenson? Or is he simply playing the game smarter than everyone else? And do you believe Jake Paul has even the slightest chance against a real champion, or will Tank expose him once and for all? Drop your thoughts in the comments.